I like that. I like that. That's a blessing. That's a blessing. As we're going through the service, I just wanted to enjoy it. I said, tomorrow night the Steelers ain't gonna have nothing on us in terms of praise. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. These are some crazy times in which we live, but the scripture that was read for us is one that has sometimes been found in the 38th verse, following the 38th verse of Luke's gospel, and sometimes it has been found in another place in this gospel. But most authorities have recognized it as being placed where it is, ending this 7th chapter and that last verse there. Well, they answered, "Are you also from Galilee? Study the scriptures, and you will learn that no prophet has ever come from Galilee," which closes out that chapter. But sometimes this incident is listed there with these words: "Then everyone went home, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early the next morning, when he went back to the temple, all the people gathered around him, and he sat down and began to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught committing adultery, and they made her stand before them all. 'Teacher,' they said to Jesus, 'this woman has been caught in the very act of committing adultery. In our law, Moses commanded that such a woman must be stoned. Now, what do you say?' They said this to trap Jesus so that they could accuse him. But he bent over and wrote on the ground with his finger. And they stood there asking him questions. As they stood there asking him questions, he straightened up and said to them, 'Whichever one of you has committed no sin may throw the first stone at her.' Then he bent down again and wrote on the ground. When they heard this, they all left, one by one, the older ones first. Jesus was left alone with the woman, still standing there. He straightened up and said to her, 'Where are they? Is there no one left to condemn you?' 'No one, sir,' she answered. 'Well then,' Jesus said, 'I do not condemn you either. Go, but do not sin again.'" This is the word of the Lord. I want to talk about, just for a few minutes, what she learned. What she learned. As I said earlier, this scripture has been variously placed through history. And over the last several hundred years, I guess this has been the place where it has been found, this story. And it speaks out to me, and it is speaking to me at this time. What did she learn? What do we need to learn? The devil is a liar. And as I was trying to read through some of the events in John's gospel, which portrays a lot of the conflict, a lot of the verbal conflict and physical attacks. As I mentioned last week when we talked a little bit from this gospel when he was in the upper room, a contract had been sent out from Jesus by those in political and religious authority. They wanted to kill him. We go back to even in the 5th chapter there, or in that chapter where a man is sitting by the pool of Bethesda, and he runs upon the man, and the man he'd been brought there all of the time, just sitting there while everybody else went in the temple because he wasn't able to go into the temple. Not only could he not walk, the fact of the matter is he wasn't even allowed in the temple because people who were infirmed could not go into the temple. You could come there and sit outside, but you couldn't go inside. And when Jesus came, he saw the man and asked the man, in short, do you want to walk? And the man said, yes. But when it comes time, once a year, there's this festival or there's this event where the water that is in the pool near the temple is stirred up. And the first one who gets to the pool is the one who is healed. And he's crippled, and I guess the people passed. They tried to help him get there, but he's never been the first. He's in some years, he's in his 30s, and then he's sitting down there, and the fact of the matter is, Jesus said, do you want to walk? And he said, yes. He said, then take up your bed and walk. Get off the bed, pick it up, and start walking. When the man heard this, that's what he did. So stunned, he didn't know what else to do. He said, oh, and he picked up the bed. And I'm not going to get into the weeds of all of those who think that he had a psychological problem. His parents later comes on and say, oh, yeah, he's the one. But the fact of the matter is, the man had the ability or received the ability to walk once he recognized that God had told him to walk. Instead of those who were in religious and political authority, Brother Quentin, instead of them getting, oh, wow, look, a miracle has happened, they got organized to criticize. And they come, and since then, they had decided this man is dangerous. People who've been lame, and they found out that others had been blind. And in chapter 11, it's going to get even worse than it is here, because that's the event that John identifies as one of the reasons they got determined to kill him. He raised Lazarus out of the grave. The interesting piece of this story is those who brought her to Jesus were not interested in her at all. She was an excuse. They had been already looking for Jesus to see what they could find to put him in trouble and get him arrested. They were trying to arrest it. At the beginning of the last chapter, chapter 7, in the beginning of that chapter, you realize that even his brothers, some of Jesus' brothers, didn't believe in him. They said, they were in Galilee getting ready to go to the Feast of the Festivals. And they said, are you coming? He says, I'm not going right now. They said, well, why don't you leave Galilee and go up here to Jerusalem, to the feast, where people can see all you're doing, if you're all of that. And Jesus said, y'all go ahead on. It's not my time yet. Jesus knew how to manage his time. You remember what happened when Mary and Martha's brother died? They called for Jesus, and he said, oh, well, I'm going to be there in a while. I'll be there. Don't worry about it. And he didn't get there until after the funeral. The man was buried, and you know what happened then. And so he said, it's not my time to go yet. You go. And this has gone on. Just read all of those chapters. You see where Jesus' message that you ought to believe in God and don't get caught in the weeds of all of the political church stuff and all of the weeds of the political stuff that's going on with Rome. Just trust God and you're going to find out something. Long time ago, sisters and brothers, when I was in Springfield, Massachusetts, where I founded a church called the Martin Luther King Church, and a few years later that year was elected to the local school board. As soon as I got to my first school board meeting, one of the people who had been very enthusiastic, she was a school board member. She was reelected. I was elected to the board, and she went, Reverend Peters, well, you've been in the church a long time, and you're doing a great job over there. Now, what are you going to do here in politics? I said, Madam, where do you think I learned politics? You see, and so we get caught up all in the wrong things and forget what Jesus tells the disciples in the upper room. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. And you will bear much fruit, because apart from me, you can't do nothing. You see, so when these tricksters, they called them, the religious leaders, the Pharisees and so forth, bring the woman to Jesus, and they said, all right, we're trying to trick him. The law of Moses says she should die. She should be stoned. What do you say? And Jesus, and it's interesting, his response. He goes and just says, which of y'all have not committed a sin? Before they could answer, homeboy just stoops down, starts writing in the ground. Never says what he was writing. There are those who suggest that since he knew a lot of them, he was writing down their names and some of the sins that they had committed. Jesus is down there writing, and all of a sudden, they lose interest in the woman, in the conversation, and they start walking away. And yeah, the older ones first. I can talk because I'm one of them. Just as an aside, I did some of my training in seminary. I had to go to a nursing home, spend times with seniors, because young fella at 28, 29, thought it was a good way to learn how to deal with old people. Now I really know how to deal with old people. And I remember they told me to wear what I call a hind part before a front, one of those priest collars. And I walked up to a fella. This was a predominantly white populated audience, and I was the only chocolate chip in the cookie mix. And when I walked up to one of these guys, one of these old guys in a wheelchair, and the nurse, I'd read his chart and I'd go up there, and one of the first things I read, that he doesn't like black people. So I said 1, 2 prayers to myself, and I walked up. And we got on all right as long as I was talking sports. Okay. And then there was this other old lady here. She had to be in her 90s. And I walked up to her, and I said, hey, Miss So-and-so, how you doing today? You're looking pretty good, She was all dressed up. And the old lady said, well, son, you're looking pretty good yourself. learned a lot about old people. Those of you who know about Abraham and Sarah, be careful. But the point is, in this instance, when everyone had left and the woman was standing there with Jesus, he asked, "Where are your accusers?" "I don't see them, sir." "Has no one accused you?" "No." And he said, "Neither do I. But go and sin no more." Now, sisters and brothers, I want to push you a little bit on that. Because usually when we see the words, "go and sin no more," in this context to this woman, we automatically assume that he means exclusively, don't go and mess with nobody else's husband. But I think Jesus is trying to get her to see something a little bit deeper than that. He is trying to say, go and sin no more. In other words, you are better than that. God did not purpose you to be somebody else's plaything. God called you for greater things, but because you have not believed in yourself, you allow others' opinions of you to think that you that low, you that available, you that stupid, you that vulnerable, you that dumb, that you're going to stoop to anything to please anybody. You're going to accept anybody else's abuse. And don't get it twisted. You can't fault her too much, because the place of women back then was not all that great. In fact, women had no rights. They were essentially property of their parents, of their father, until he was dead, or their uncle if he's gone. And then they became property of the guy they married. That's why they had to come up with a big dowry and to marry, because they were in effect buying their wives. And don't get it twisted, you know, through history, that has been the story with women. They are considered, we think we're all egalitarian, we're all better than that now. But how come when it came to the revolution of the United States from Britain, when they talked about who could vote, they didn't mean any women. They didn't mean any men. If they weren't property owners, and God help, you know who they didn't mean. They didn't mean those people who were 3/5 of a person. And it was not until 1922, well, it was not until after the Reformation, after the Civil War, that they finally got Congress to pass laws that slavery was out of the question, and that people could vote who looked like me and many of you. And it was another point all the way into the next century. I think it was 1922 when women were finally allowed to vote. And well, you saw what happened when Mrs. Clinton and Kamala Harris tried to run for president. They were a significant potential. Kamala had experience in politics. She was a well-trained lawyer, all of this kind of stuff. And look what this country did. I'm not talking politics. I'm just talking about understanding the place of women. How we say we value women. Well, you can replace women with poor people. You can replace the word women with immigrants. You can replace the word immigrants with persons of another sexual orientation from yours. You can call the line. We always in society find a way to put down somebody else for some reason, and got the nerve enough to say, well, you know the law of Moses said. Well, sisters and brothers, I just want to say, and I'm happy to be here. I get happy when I come in this place. I get excited. You know why it's the house? Not only because it's the house of God, the bricks and the glass and the beauty of the place does not make this a house of God. You and I make this place the house of God. I walked in the front door this morning feeling pretty bad, and I was greeted by 5 or 6 people who gave me a hug and said, hey, how you doing? This kind of stuff. Well, you know, you can't beat it. The fact of the matter is, and I'll share this with you not for sympathy or anything like that, just to explain fact. The process of even getting to be your interim minister because of a whole lot of legalistic shenanigans has been very engaging. I'll be positive. Engaging. And time-consuming. And there were some things that I wanted to do and to get done that had nothing to do with that, but had more to do with Bidwell and what I think God has decided, and I've joined with the session and met with various one of you, that God has called all of us to do collectively. You don't have to listen to me. Just go and, you have to turn off these things because they'll give you all the kind of crazy information you want. But even the supposed valid places for information, when you get elected officials who are going to allow de facto wars to be started. And that's why, Brother Quentin, I got so excited when you were talking about you are the source of my life. And it brought tears to my eyes. Our man is gone, Richard Smallwood. He's gone his reward. But the fact of the matter is, sisters and brothers, God has not brought you here this morning by accident. God didn't allow you to be born by accident. God didn't bring you through the trials and tribulations through which you have been by accident. Sometimes you have to go through a bad time just to realize how strong God is with you in crisis. You got to learn the same thing the psalmist said. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't need to fear any evil because God is with me. You got to say what the writer in Psalm 27, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom or what shall I fear? You got to say what Jeremiah said. Sometimes it gets so ugly, Jeremiah didn't even want to talk. I will not speak in the Lord's name anymore. And I try to sit down and be quiet. I don't want to be bothered with that anymore. I'm going to go over here and sit in the corner all by myself. And I try to fall up and not be bothered. But then all of a sudden I realize it's like a fire shut up in my bones. I can't be still. I can't be quiet. I got to go and tell somebody what the Lord has done for me. You can't sit down. You got to get up and go. Sometimes the world beats you down. All of your friends, act like they don't know you. They get a little careful about being with you in public. Sometimes the bills get too much for the money that you got. Just like what happened to Jesus in the upper room. All of his friends were gathered around there, and they were all dipping their hands in the cup. And Jesus recognized, he knew all along because the man was a thief, recognized that the guy who was putting his finger in there to take communion with him after Passover was the one who was going to betray him. And all of those, and Peter stood up when he said, somebody's going to betray me tonight. And they all stood up, Lord, is it I? Judas didn't say nothing. Lord, is it I? which is one of the most stupid questions they could ask. Of course it's you. They all left him. So his friends left him. One of those he had chosen that he thought he could help betrayed him. You get down, and you get so disgusted and disappointed that you want to be. I don't want to be like the disciples. Judas had to go out and hang himself. All of the rest of them left him. I want to be like Jesus, because on the third day, he got up saying, all power is in my hands. And this is what God has appointed for this congregation. Never mind the congregation. This is what God has appointed for you. And for you. And for you. And for you. And for you. God birthed you just like he saw Jesus to be born, because he called you for something. And sometimes we can make such a mess of our lives that we don't think that we're worthy. I want you to know that what that woman learned was that we are not who the world says we are. We are who God says we are. If God has called you, and brethren, yes, we made some mistakes. I don't want to tell you all the mistakes I made. All right. You're not going there. That's not what this is about. But the fact of the matter is, several months ago, I was very happy being retired and playing. Then several months ago, when Denise, PhD, I'm going to call her one-time professor and say, we need you to help in this situation with this church. And she told me that she was going to leave. My heart sank. And it wasn't so much for me, but it was for this church. And it was for the ministry that, with her assistance, because she's rooted in the vine called Jesus Christ. And you all are rooted in that same vine called Jesus Christ. That you all can bear fruit and have borne fruit and are bearing fruit, and we haven't seen anything yet. And I looked around and I talked with a few people and I saw some things, and they wouldn't leave me alone. And even my doctor said, you know, Brother Peters, you have to learn there's a word in the Bible you want to repeat more often. It's no. And then I came away after several such events and realized, who am I that the Lord should call me to do this? All right now. And that's why I could identify with that lady, because I had gotten ready to sit down. And apparently God has something else, not for Ronald to do, but for us to do. All right now. And every time I get up, see the news, I realize that all, I shouldn't say this, but all churches are not created equal. And all people are not created equal. But God is calling each and every one of them. And block away, and I walked down into the hotel along with a couple of buddies of mine. And as we were walking, we would pass this guy pedaling on the corner, just big into a cup. And I'm going to be my magnanimous self. I'm going to go ahead and get the guy $1. And his response shocked me. Is that all you got? You must think you're somebody walking there, you got your suit on now with all your big time friends. Is that all you got? I can't say in the pulpit what I said. But I learned something from that. And I've changed my approach when I see somebody in need. Good morning, how you doing? You know, and there was one lady outside of a drugstore. I was going inside the drugstore, and she said, "Can she help?" I said, "What's your name?" And she told me her name. We got up, and she said she was hungry. I said, "Fine." But once you engage people, you recognize their humanity. Now, I'm not encouraging y'all to go out and meet the crazy people and all this stuff. I'm just saying, once you are able to recognize a person as Jesus recognized this woman, he's going to tell her what she needed to hear. You are better than that. And that's what God is telling all of us right now. And if you are encountering some personal situations or challenges in your life, as we all do, just remember, the God you serve is better than the problems you face. God didn't bring us all this far to leave us now. That's what she learned. That's what we must learn. And learning is not just hearing, it's practicing. God will surprise you with what God will do